Part 1. The morning decides everything. There is a window that opens every single day. It lasts approximately the first 30 minutes after you wake up. Most people never realize how critically important this window is. They reach for their phone before their eyes have fully adjusted to the light. They flood their mind with news, notifications, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies, other people's lives. And then they wonder why, before the day has even properly begun, they already feel behind. Already feel heavy. Already feel like something is faintly wrong without being able to name exactly what it is. The morning is not just the start of your day. It is the emotional tone your entire nervous system will carry forward into every conversation, every decision, every challenge that follows. What you feed your mind in those first 30 minutes quietly shapes your internal weather for hours afterward. This is not poetic language. This is neurological reality. Your brain upon waking is in a uniquely receptive and impressionable state. The thoughts and inputs it receives first have a disproportionate influence on the mental patterns that dominate the rest of your waking hours. So what does a morning that genuinely serves you look like? It does not need to be elaborate. It does not require a 2-hour routine or a perfectly curated series of habits that look impressive on social media. It requires only one thing: intention. The conscious decision to own the first moments of your day rather than immediately surrendering them to the demands of the outside world. This could mean lying still for 5 minutes and simply noticing how your body feels before you ask anything of it. It could mean stepping outside and feeling actual air on your skin before looking at a single screen. It could mean writing 3 sentences about what you are genuinely looking forward to, however small. The specific practice matters far less than the principle behind it. You are training your nervous system to begin each day from a place of presence rather than reaction. From a place of choosing rather than being swept. And that single shift, practiced consistently over time, will change how you feel every day more profoundly than almost anything else you could do. Part 2. The body knows before the mind admits it. We have been taught to live almost entirely from the neck up. To trust thoughts over sensations. To push through physical signals in service of mental goals. To override tiredness, override hunger, override tension, override pain, all in pursuit of productivity, achievement, or simply the appearance of having everything under control. And this disconnection from the body is quietly costing us more than we realize. Your body is not a vehicle for carrying your brain from place to place. It is an extraordinarily sophisticated intelligence system that is constantly communicating with you. It registers emotional experiences before your conscious mind has processed them. It stores unresolved stress in specific places: the jaw, the shoulders, the chest, the stomach. It signals depletion long before collapse arrives, using the language of fatigue, restlessness, irritability, and that vague but persistent sense that something feels off even when nothing specific is wrong. Learning to feel better every day begins, in a very real sense, with learning to listen to your body again. Not with anxiety. Not with obsessive monitoring. But with the same gentle, curious attention you would give to a close friend who was trying to tell you something important. Begin simply. Several times throughout your day, pause for 30 seconds and perform what some researchers call a body scan. Start at the top of your head and move your attention slowly downward. Not looking for problems. Simply noticing. Is there tension somewhere you had stopped noticing because it had become so constant? Is there a heaviness in your chest that appeared after a particular conversation? Is your breathing shallow in a way that suggests your nervous system is quietly running on high alert? These check-ins cost almost nothing in time. But they return something invaluable. They rebuild the connection between what you are experiencing emotionally and what your body is physically holding. And once that connection is restored, you gain access to an early warning system that tells you what you need: rest, movement, nourishment, space, connection, before the need becomes a crisis that forces itself on you in ways that are far harder to manage. Part 3. Why your thoughts are not the truth. You have approximately 60,000 thoughts every single day. 60,000. And the vast majority of them are not original. They are not fresh observations about your current reality. They are recycled. Repeated. Habitual patterns of thinking that have been running in the background of your mind for years, sometimes for decades, often since childhood. The thought that you are not quite enough. The thought that things will probably go wrong. The thought that other people have something figured out that you have somehow missed. These are not insights. They are habits. And like all habits, they can be changed. The single most important shift you can make in how you feel every single day is learning to create distance between yourself and your thoughts. Not to suppress them. Not to pretend they are not there. But to stop automatically believing that because a thought appeared in your mind, it must be an accurate report of reality. Psychologists call this cognitive diffusion. The process of recognizing a thought as a thought rather than a fact. When the thought arrives that says you are going to fail at this, the untrained mind treats that statement as true and responds to it emotionally as if failure were already happening. The trained mind notices that thought, names it, there is that prediction of failure again, and chooses whether or not to engage with it further. This is a skill. It takes practice. But it begins with one simple and revolutionary question that you can start asking today. Is this thought actually true, or is it simply familiar? Because familiar and true are not the same thing at all. Many of the thoughts that feel most certain, most urgent, most obviously accurate are simply the ones your mind has repeated so many times that they have developed the texture of established fact. When you begin questioning the automatic authority of your own thinking, something remarkable happens. The mental noise does not disappear entirely. But it loses its grip. And in the space that opens up between you and your thoughts, you discover something that was always there but hidden, the ability to choose how you respond to your own mind. That ability is one of the most powerful sources of daily well-being available to any human being. Part 4, The Hidden Cost of Never Doing Nothing. We live in a culture that has declared war on stillness. Busyness has become a status symbol. Productivity has become a moral virtue. Rest has been rebranded as something you must earn through sufficient output rather than something your nervous system requires simply to function. And the result is a population that is chronically overstimulated, chronically exhausted, and chronically confused about why they feel so depleted despite doing so much. The human nervous system was not designed for the pace of modern life. It was not designed for the constant low-level demands of notifications, deadlines, digital connection, and the relentless pressure to be optimizing something at all times. It was designed for rhythms. For periods of effort followed by genuine periods of rest. For nights of actual darkness and days with natural variation between activity and stillness. When we remove those rhythms, when we fill every available moment with input, stimulation, and demand, we are not being productive. We are slowly and systematically draining the very resource that makes genuine productivity possible. Doing nothing is not laziness. It is maintenance. It is the biological equivalent of letting a field lie fallow so that it can restore the nutrients that continuous cultivation depletes. The brain during genuine rest, not scrolling, not consuming, not planning, but actual quiet, engages its default mode network. A system of neural activity that processes experience, consolidates memory, generates creative insight, and integrates emotion. In other words, some of the most important work your mind does happens precisely when you stop demanding things of it. This does not require hours. It requires intention. 10 minutes of genuine stillness, sitting quietly, walking without a destination or a podcast, staring out a window without guilt, can measurably reduce cortisol levels and restore a sense of calm that no amount of achievement or consumption can manufacture. The people who feel best consistently are almost never the ones doing the most. They are the ones who have learned that rest is not the opposite of a good life. It is one of its essential ingredients. Part 5, The Relationships That Restore You. Not all human connection is created equal. You have almost certainly noticed this in your own life, even if you have never examined it consciously. There are people you spend time with and afterward feel energized, lighter, more like yourself. And there are people you spend time with and afterward feel strangely hollow. Drained in a way that is difficult to explain because nothing obviously terrible happened. The conversation was fine. The evening was fine. And yet something in you was quietly depleted by the experience. This is not imagination. It is physiology. Human beings are extraordinarily sensitive to the emotional states of the people around them. We have mirror neurons that cause us to internally simulate the feelings of others. We have nervous systems that unconsciously synchronize with the nervous systems of people we spend extended time with. This means that the emotional quality of your relationships is not a soft or optional aspect of your well-being. It is a direct and powerful determinant of how you feel every single day. The relationships that restore you share certain qualities. They are spaces where you do not have to manage yourself carefully. Where you can say something unfinished and not be judged for its incompleteness. Where silence is comfortable rather than loaded. Where you leave the interaction feeling that you are seen and accepted as you actually are rather than as you are expected to be. These relationships do not require constant contact or grand gestures. Even brief, genuine moments of this quality of connection have measurable positive effects on mood, immune function, and overall sense of life satisfaction. Investing in these relationships, protecting the time for them, showing up fully when you are in them, telling the people inside them that they matter to you, is one of the highest return investments you can make in your own daily well-being. And equally important is the quiet, compassionate work of recognizing which connections are consistently costing you more than they are giving, and making thoughtful decisions about how much of your finite energy those connections receive. You are allowed to be selective. Your nervous system will thank you every single day that you are. Part 6, Movement is medicine your body already owns. There is a pharmaceutical that has been available to human beings since the beginning of our existence. It costs nothing. It has no dangerous side effects when used appropriately. It improves mood, sharpens cognition, reduces anxiety, deepens sleep, strengthens the immune system, and increases the overall sense that life is worth engaging with fully. It is physical movement. And the research supporting its effects on mental and emotional well-being is now so overwhelming that many leading psychiatrists describe regular movement not as a lifestyle suggestion but as a clinical intervention. When you move your body, and it does not need to be intense, it does not need to be athletic, it simply needs to be genuine physical movement, a cascade of neurochemical events occurs. Endorphins reduce the perception of pain and generate feelings of mild euphoria. Serotonin levels rise, improving mood stability and emotional resilience. Dopamine increases, enhancing motivation and the capacity to experience pleasure. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, sometimes called fertilizer for the brain, is released, promoting the growth of new neural connections and literally making your brain more capable of learning, adapting, and recovering from stress. But beyond the biochemistry, movement does something perhaps even more important. It returns you to your body. It interrupts the relentless loop of mental activity that most of us spend our days trapped inside. It creates a period of time where thinking must yield to feeling, where the abstract world of worries and plans and regrets must temporarily make room for the immediate, physical, undeniable reality of a body in motion. You do not need a gym membership or an athletic identity to access this. A 20-minute walk taken deliberately and without your phone can shift your emotional state more effectively than an hour of trying to think your way out of a difficult mood. The intention matters. Moving with awareness of your body rather than moving while your mind continues its usual frantic business is what transforms physical activity from simple exercise into genuine medicine for the whole person you are. Part 7, What you consume quietly becomes who you are. Every single day you are consuming. Not just food, though food matters enormously. You are consuming information. Images. Other people's opinions. News. Entertainment. Social media. Conversations. Music. The accumulated weight of everything your senses take in across the hours of a day. And all of this consumption is shaping you in ways that are largely invisible precisely because they are so constant. The content you repeatedly expose yourself to does not stay external. It migrates inward. It influences the lens through which you interpret events. It shapes the baseline emotional tone you carry without being aware you are carrying it. A person who begins every morning by reading anxiety-producing news and ends every evening consuming conflict-driven content will develop a nervous system that is quietly primed for threat even in the absence of any real danger. Not because they are weak or neurotic, but because the brain is adaptive and learns from repetition. It becomes efficient at whatever it practices most. This is not an argument for ignorance or avoidance of reality. It is an argument for curation. For the conscious decision to treat your attention as the precious and finite resource it actually is. Every piece of content you consume is asking for a portion of that resource. The question worth asking regularly is whether what you are giving your attention to is worth what it costs you in return. Begin noticing how you feel after different types of consumption. Not during, almost everything is engineered to be engaging. But after. How do you feel 30 minutes after spending time on social media compared to 30 minutes after reading something that expanded your thinking? How do you feel after an evening of content that was purely passive compared to an evening where you made or created something, however small? These observations will tell you more about what your mind actually needs than any external recommendation could. And gradually, as you begin choosing more deliberately what you allow into your mental environment, you will notice your baseline mood lifting in ways that feel almost mysterious until you realize they are simply the natural result of feeding your mind better every day. Part 8. Why People Lie and What They Are Really Saying. Understanding deception is not about catching people out. It is not about becoming suspicious of everyone around you or turning every conversation into an interrogation. It is about understanding one of the most deeply human behaviors that exists. Because people lie far less out of malice than we assume. And the reason behind a lie almost always reveals something far more important than the truth that was hidden. The vast majority of lies told every single day are what researchers call prosocial lies. Lies told not to gain advantage but to protect something. To protect a relationship from unnecessary pain. To protect a sense of self that feels too fragile to expose. To protect another person from a truth they do not yet have the emotional resources to receive. When your friend says they are fine and they clearly are not, they are not deceiving you out of dishonesty. They are protecting themselves from the vulnerability of being truly seen in a moment of pain. Understanding this reframes everything. Instead of asking whether someone is lying, begin asking what they are protecting. What is so important, so fragile, or so frightening that they feel they cannot bring it fully into the open right now? That question will take you somewhere far more meaningful than any lie detection technique ever could. That said, there are genuine signals worth knowing. When a person's account of something becomes suddenly and unusually detailed in specific places, that over-explanation is often a sign of internal anxiety around that particular detail. When someone distances themselves from a statement by saying things like "people sometimes do this" instead of "I did this," that linguistic distancing often reflects discomfort with direct ownership. When the emotional response to a question arrives slightly too late, as if it had to be consciously retrieved rather than naturally felt, that delay is worth noting quietly. But always remember the cluster rule. No single signal proves anything. What matters is the pattern. What matters even more is the relationship you have built that makes honesty feel safe. Because the single most effective way to get truth from another person has nothing to do with detection. It has everything to do with creating an environment where telling the truth feels less frightening than hiding it.